November 28th, 1942. The desert wind howled across the barren landscape outside Tebourba, Tunisia, carrying with it the acrid smoke tanks and the metallic taste of burning Sherman of blood. Obergefreiter Klaus Weber crouched behind the twisted wreckage of an American half-track, his Kar 98K rifle clutched tightly in his dust-covered hands. The 10th Panzer Division had just finished mopping up another American position, and the silence that followed the battle felt heavier than the oppressive North African heat. Weber had been fighting in the desert for 8 months now, ever since Rommel's Afrika Korps had pushed deep into Egypt. He had seen British Matilda tanks burn under the guns of German panzers. He had watched Italian M13s crumble before the superior firepower of the Wehrmacht's armor. But something about this latest engagement felt different. Something had changed in the mathematics of desert warfare, and Weber couldn't quite identify what it was. The Americans had arrived in North Africa just 3 weeks earlier as part of Operation Torch, bringing with them equipment and tactics the Germans had never encountered. Fresh-faced soldiers from a nation that had been at peace while Europe burned, carrying weapons that bore the stamp of American industrial might. Weber's company commander, Hauptmann Friedrich Müller, had briefed his men about the new enemy. The Americans were inexperienced, he said. They lacked the battle-hardened edge of the Afrika Korps. They would be easily defeated and driven back into the Mediterranean. But the fighting around Tebourba had proven more challenging than anyone anticipated. American resistance was fierce, and their equipment carried surprises that German intelligence had not prepared them for. Weber rose from his position and began walking through the debris field, searching for anything of intelligence value. Scattered around the destroyed American position lay the usual detritus of modern warfare. Steel helmets, ammunition belts, water canteens, field radios with their wires cut by shrapnel. Then he saw it. Lying half-buried in the sand beside a destroyed foxhole was a metal tube, unlike anything Weber had encountered in 3 years of war. The device measured roughly 4.5 feet in length, olive drab in color, with what appeared to be electrical wiring running along its exterior surface. At one end was a flared opening, while the other terminated in a grip mechanism and trigger assembly. The entire contraption weighed perhaps 15 pounds, light enough for a single soldier to carry and operate. Weber called over his squad leader, Unteroffizier Heinrich Bauer, a veteran of the Polish and French campaigns who had an eye for enemy equipment. Bauer examined the mysterious weapon with the careful attention of a man who had learned to respect anything that could kill him. Neither soldier had ever seen anything quite like it. The design was simple, almost crude by German engineering standards, yet something about its utilitarian construction suggested deadly purpose. "What do you think it is, Bauer?" Weber asked, running his fingers along the metal tube's surface. Bauer shook his head slowly, his weathered face creased with concentration. "I have no idea, but the Americans wouldn't carry something this size unless it served an important function." Within an hour, Hauptmann Müller had been summoned to examine the captured device. The company commander studied the weapon with growing fascination, noting details that suggested sophisticated engineering despite its simple appearance. The electrical components appeared to be part of an ignition system. The flared end showed scorch marks consistent with some form of propellant discharge. Most intriguing of all were the markings stamped into the metal. M1 launcher, 2.36-inch rocket. This was clearly some form of rocket-propelled weapon, but unlike anything in the German arsenal. The Wehrmacht employed Nebelwerfer rocket artillery and experimental rocket-powered aircraft, but those were massive systems requiring substantial logistical support. This device could be operated by a single infantryman, suggesting applications that German military doctrine had never seriously considered. Müller ordered his men to search the battlefield more thoroughly. Within 2 hours, they had recovered 3 additional launcher tubes and a wooden crate containing what appeared to be ammunition. The projectiles were sleek, finned rockets approximately 2 feet in length, each weighing roughly 3.5 pounds. The warheads were shaped in a distinctive cone configuration that German ordnance specialists would later recognize as employing the Monroe effect for armor penetration. As the sun began to set over the Tunisian desert, casting long shadows across the battlefield, Muller assembled his findings and prepared a detailed report for division headquarters. The captured equipment represented something potentially revolutionary in infantry weapons development. If these devices functioned as their design suggested, they would fundamentally alter the balance between infantry and armor that had defined modern warfare since 1939. The implications were staggering and deeply troubling for German strategic planning. For 3 years, the Wehrmacht had dominated battlefields through superior armor tactics and overwhelming firepower concentration. German panzer divisions had crushed Polish cavalry, French armor, and British tank formations through coordinated attacks that concentrated maximum force at decisive points. Individual infantry soldiers were largely helpless against properly employed armor, requiring specialized anti-tank guns or close assault tactics with explosive charges to engage enemy tanks successfully. But if these captured American weapons functioned as their specifications suggested, every enemy infantryman could potentially become a tank destroyer. The mathematical advantage that German armor had enjoyed since the invasion of Poland would be neutralized by weapons simple enough for conscript soldiers to master quickly and light enough to be deployed wherever infantry could go. The following morning brought confirmation of Muller's worst fears. American prisoners captured during the Tebourba engagement were interrogated by German intelligence officers who had rushed forward from Tunis. The weapon was called a bazooka, the prisoners explained, named after a musical instrument used by American comedian Bob Burns. It fired rocket-propelled grenades capable of penetrating the armor of any German tank currently deployed in North Africa. Lieutenant Werner Hoffmann, the division's intelligence officer, conducted the interrogations with methodical precision. The American soldiers, most of them barely 20 years old and clearly shaken by their first encounter with German forces, provided detailed information about their training with the new weapon. The bazooka had been issued to selected infantry squads just before the North African landings, they explained. Most soldiers had received only minimal training in its operation due to the weapon's recent development and strict security classifications. The rockets employed shape-charge warheads that focused explosive energy into a narrow jet capable of penetrating steel armor up to 4 inches thick. The effective range was approximately 100 meters, though accurate shooting required considerable practice. The electrical firing system was powered by dry cell batteries, making the weapon independent of external power sources. Most significantly, the entire system had been designed for mass production using standard American industrial techniques. This last detail proved particularly disturbing to German analysts who understood the implications of American industrial capacity. If the bazooka could be manufactured using conventional production methods, American factories would inevitably produce them in quantities that German industry could never match. Every American infantry division would eventually carry dozens or hundreds of these weapons, fundamentally altering the tactical balance in favor of defending infantry forces. Word of the captured bazookas spread quickly through German command channels, reaching the highest levels of military leadership within days. Field Marshal Rommel himself examined photographs and technical drawings of the weapon, immediately grasping its revolutionary implications for desert warfare. In his daily report to the German High Command, Rommel noted that American forces possessed a new infantry anti-tank weapon of remarkable simplicity and apparent effectiveness. The urgency surrounding analysis of the captured equipment reflected German recognition that they faced something genuinely unprecedented. Throughout military history, technological advantages had typically favored forces with superior industrial capacity and scientific expertise. Germany had entered World War II with technological superiority in tanks, aircraft, and communications equipment that had enabled rapid victories across Europe. But the bazooka represented a different kind of technological achievement. It was not superior through complex engineering or exotic materials. Its advantage lay in its practical simplicity, its ease of manufacture, and its democratization of anti-tank capability. Any nation with basic industrial capacity could potentially produce similar weapons, but the United States possessed the industrial scale to manufacture them in overwhelming quantities. German ordnance specialists who examined the captured bazookas at the Hillersleben proving grounds near Berlin quickly understood both the weapon's capabilities and its limitations. Test firings against captured enemy armor confirmed that the shape-charge warheads could indeed penetrate German tank armor at close range. The weapon's accuracy proved adequate for engaging stationary targets, though moving targets presented significant challenges due to the rocket's relatively slow flight speed. More importantly, German engineers recognized that the basic design could be scaled up to create even more powerful weapons. The American bazooka used a 2.36-inch diameter rocket, but there was no theoretical limit preventing the development of larger caliber versions with greater armor penetration. Within weeks of examining the captured weapons, German designers had begun work on an enlarged version that would become known as the Panzerschreck. The speed of German adaptation demonstrated both their engineering competence and their growing desperation. By late 1942, the strategic situation had shifted decisively against Germany on multiple fronts. The Battle of Stalingrad was consuming irreplaceable German manpower and equipment. Allied bombing campaigns were beginning to dis. The entry of the United States into the war harrowed German industrial production, fundamentally altered the mathematical balance of industrial capacity in favor of the Allies. Under these circumstances, any weapon that could provide tactical advantages to German forces deserved immediate attention and rapid development. The captured bazookas represented not just a new threat to be countered, but a potential solution to Germany's growing resource constraints. If German infantry could be equipped with effective anti-tank weapons, fewer specialized anti-tank guns and crews would be required, freeing resources for other priorities. The documentation process that followed proved as systematic as it was urgent. Obergefreiter Weber and his squad were ordered to carefully package the captured bazookas and their ammunition for immediate transport to German testing facilities. Each component was photographed from multiple angles, measured with precision instruments, and cataloged with the meticulous attention to detail that characterized German military engineering. The electrical firing system received particular scrutiny, as German ordnance specialists had never encountered battery-powered ignition in a portable weapon system. Within 72 hours of the capture, a convoy of trucks departed Tebourba, carrying the precious cargo toward Tunis, where Luftwaffe transport aircraft waited to ferry the weapons to Germany. The priority assigned to this shipment reflected the highest levels of German command recognition that they had stumbled upon something of extraordinary strategic importance. Radio messages crackling between North African headquarters and Berlin carried coded references to special equipment, requiring immediate technical analysis. At Hillersleben Proving Grounds, located 60 miles southwest of Berlin, General der Artillerie Emil Leib assembled a team of Germany's most accomplished ordnance engineers. Leib had overseen development of some of the Wehrmacht's most successful artillery systems, including the 88mm anti-aircraft gun that had proven so devastatingly effective against enemy armor. His reputation for methodical analysis and innovative problem-solving made him the logical choice to evaluate this captured American technology. The first test firing took place on a cold December morning in 1942, with temperatures well below freezing and snow covering the proving ground's vast expanse. German engineers had constructed a firing position identical to what they imagined American infantry would use in combat conditions. A captured British Matilda tank, knocked out during earlier desert fighting and shipped to Germany for ballistic testing, served as the target at a range of exactly 100 meters. Oberingenieur Hans Schneider, a specialist in shape-charge munitions who had worked on anti-tank mine development, operated the captured bazooka personally. The weapon felt surprisingly light in his hands, weighing less than most German anti-tank rifles despite its apparent capability for destroying enemy armor. The battery-powered firing system activated with a simple squeeze of the trigger mechanism, sending the M6A1 rocket streaking toward its target with a distinctive whooshing sound unlike any projectile the German engineers had previously heard. The result exceeded even their most optimistic expectations. The shaped charge warhead penetrated the Matilda's frontal armor cleanly, creating a neat hole approximately half an inch in diameter while devastating the tank's interior with molten metal fragments. The Monroe effect had functioned exactly as American designers intended, focusing explosive energy into a plasma jet capable of defeating steel armor several inches thick. German ballistics experts examining the damaged site found evidence of temperatures exceeding 3,000 degrees Celsius at the point of impact. Schneider set the weapon down with visible amazement written across his face. "Ingenious in its simplicity," he muttered to his colleagues, words that would later appear in official German technical reports. The bazooka had accomplished with 15 pounds of portable equipment what previously required massive anti-tank guns weighing several tons. More disturbing still, the weapon's basic design could obviously be manufactured using conventional industrial techniques, suggesting that American factories would inevitably produce them in overwhelming quantities. Follow-up tests conducted over the next 2 weeks confirmed the weapon's effectiveness against every type of German armor then deployed in North Africa. Panzer III medium tanks, the backbone of Rommel's armored formations, proved vulnerable to bazooka attack from any angle. Even the heavier Panzer IV, with its upgraded armor and improved gun, could not withstand direct hits from the American rockets at close range. The implications for German tactical doctrine were staggering and immediate. Major Klaus Richter, a tank officer who had participated in the Polish, French, and early Russian campaigns, observed several test firings with growing unease. For 3 years, German panzer formations had dominated European battlefields through coordinated armor attacks that concentrated overwhelming firepower at decisive points. Individual enemy infantry posed minimal threat to properly supported tanks, requiring specialized anti-tank guns or suicidal close assault tactics to achieve kills against German armor. But the bazooka changed fundamental assumptions about the relationship between infantry and armor that had governed military thinking since 1918. Every enemy soldier equipped with this weapon became a potential tank destroyer capable of engaging German armor at ranges where return fire remained difficult. Richter calculated that a single American infantry battalion, equipped with just 20 bazookas, could theoretically destroy an entire German panzer company under favorable conditions. The mathematical implications proved even more disturbing when German intelligence began estimating American production capabilities. Interrogation of additional prisoners captured during fighting around Kasserine Pass in February 1943 revealed that bazooka production had begun in earnest at multiple American facilities. The weapon's simple construction required no exotic materials or specialized manufacturing techniques, meaning that any factory capable of producing automobile parts could potentially manufacture rocket launchers. American industrial capacity dwarfed German production by factors that made meaningful comparison almost impossible. The United States possessed more steel production capacity than Germany, and all occupied territories combined. American automotive factories were already demonstrating their ability to rapidly convert civilian production lines to military manufacturing, turning out tanks, aircraft, and artillery at rates that German intelligence initially dismissed as propaganda exaggeration. If American industry applied these same mass production techniques to bazooka manufacturing, German forces would face enemies equipped with anti-quantities that could overwhelm tank weapons in any defensive strategy. The prospect of fighting Allied infantry formations where every squad possessed multiple rocket launchers represented a nightmare scenario for German armor commanders who had grown accustomed to tactical dominance. General Major Friedrich von Mellenthin, Chief of Staff to the 48th Panzer Corps, studied intelligence reports about American bazooka deployment with professional alarm. Von Mellenthin had served as an intelligence officer during the early stages of Operation Barbarossa and understood better than most the importance of accurately assessing enemy capabilities. His reports to higher headquarters painted a sobering picture of shifting tactical balance in favor of defending infantry forces. The speed with which German engineers began developing their own rocket-propelled anti-tank weapons reflected both their technical competence and strategic desperation. Within weeks of the initial Hillersleben tests, design work commenced on an enlarged version of the American concept. German engineers immediately recognized that scaling up the basic design would provide proportionally greater armor penetration, potentially creating weapons capable of defeating the heaviest Allied tanks. The German version employed an 88mm rocket diameter, compared to the American weapon's 2.36-inch caliber, resulting in significantly increased warhead size and explosive power. This larger rocket required a correspondingly larger launch tube, making the German weapon heavier and more cumbersome than its American predecessor. But the trade-off in portability seemed worthwhile given the enhanced destructive capability. Krupp metallurgists working on the project developed improved shape charge designs that maximized armor penetration efficiency. The German rocket motor employed different propellant chemistry that extended burning time beyond the launch tube, requiring protective equipment for operators, but providing slightly better ballistic performance. Most significantly, German production planning called for manufacturing rockets in quantities sufficient to equip every infantry division with substantial anti-tank capability. By spring 1943, prototype German rocket launchers were undergoing field testing with combat units on the Eastern Front. The weapon received the official designation Raketenpanzerbüchse 43, though soldiers quickly nicknamed it Panzerschreck, or Tank Terror. The name proved prophetic, as Allied armor commanders soon learned to fear the distinctive blast signature that announced the presence of German rocket teams. Initial combat reports from units equipped with the Panzerschreck confirmed German expectations about the weapon's effectiveness. Soviet T-34 tanks, previously immune to most German infantry weapons, proved vulnerable to rocket attack at ranges up to 150 meters. The psychological impact proved as significant as the physical damage, as Allied tank crews became increasingly cautious about operating in areas where German anti-tank teams might be concealed. The irony was not lost on German military analysts that American technological innovation had provided the foundation for weapons that would soon terrorize American tank crews in Normandy and Italy. The captured bazookas examined at Hillersleben had revealed design principles that German engineers improved upon and scaled up, creating weapons more powerful than their American origins. By 1944, German infantry formations carried Panzerschrecks capable of destroying Sherman tanks, Churchill heavy tanks, and even the massive Soviet IS-2. Intelligence sharing agreements between Axis powers meant that Japanese forces also benefited from German analysis of captured American weapons. Technical specifications and test results were transmitted to Tokyo, where Japanese ordnance engineers began developing their own rocket-propelled anti-tank weapons based on the Bazooka concept. The Type 4 rocket launcher that emerged from Japanese factories in 1944 bore clear design lineage to the weapons first captured in the Tunisian desert. The transformation of infantry anti-tank capability represented one of the most rapid and successful examples of battlefield technology adaptation in military history. Within 18 months of the first German encounter with American bazookas near Tebourba, rocket-propelled grenades had become standard equipment for infantry forces on every major front. The concept, pioneered by American engineers and refined by German designers, would influence military thinking for decades to come. Weber, the German soldier who had first discovered the mysterious American weapon in the North African sand, never learned about the chain of events his battlefield find had set in motion. He was killed in action during the final German offensive in Tunisia, falling to British artillery fire near Mejez el Bab in April 1943. But his discovery had fundamentally altered the mathematics of modern warfare, proving that technological innovation could shift tactical advantage with stunning speed. The bazooka's legacy extended far beyond World War II, establishing design principles that would govern infantry anti-tank weapons for generations. The shaped charge warhead, the rocket-propelled delivery system, and the shoulder-fired launch platform became standard features of military arsenals worldwide. From the Soviet RPG series to modern anti-tank guided missiles, the fundamental concepts pioneered in American factories and refined in German proving grounds continue to influence military technology today. The story that began in the Tunisian desert with Obergefreiter Weber's discovery of a mysterious metal tube would reshape the fundamental nature of infantry warfare. That single captured bazooka, lying half buried in North African sand, represented far more than just another piece of enemy equipment. It embodied a revolutionary concept that would transform every foot soldier into a potential tank destroyer, forever altering the balance between armor and infantry that had defined modern combat. Within months of that November morning near Tebourba, the ripple effects of Weber's find had spread across every battlefield where German forces fought. The Panzerschreck, born from American innovation and refined by German engineering, became the terror of Allied tank crews from the beaches of Normandy to the streets of Berlin. Soviet tankers advancing through Eastern Europe learned to fear the distinctive whoosh and blast signature that announced the presence of German rocket teams. American Sherman crews in Italy and France discovered that their armor provided no sanctuary against weapons inspired by their own technology. The mathematical certainty that had once favored German panzer formations dissolved in the face of weapons simple enough for any soldier to master, yet powerful enough to destroy the mightiest tanks. The age of armored invincibility, which had begun with German victories in Poland and France, ended in the proving grounds of Hillersleben, where captured American rockets punched through steel that had once seemed impenetrable. What the Germans had discovered in that Tunisian battlefield debris was not just a weapon, but the future of infantry combat itself.